Well, we have made it this far. We have had 2 home liturgies. The first on Maundy, Thursday, when we remember the institution of Christ's body and blood and of his servanthood. We washed our own feet or the feet of others on this day. The second home liturgy on Good Friday, when we prayed ancient prayers, read the Passion narrative, and made devotions to the cross. In my house, we draped a cross with a black scarf and kept the day solemn and quiet. And here we are on the third home liturgy, a vigil for Easter. Had we been in the physical church building on this day, we would have started with a fire outside, the first fire of Easter. We would have chanted, "The light of Christ, thanks be to God." We have done some of that so far in our home liturgy. We have candles burning and we have read the ancient text called the Exultet. And just as we have done so far in our home liturgy, our liturgy within the church would have had many readings of God's salvation. Of the many readings, the one text that cannot be excluded from the Easter Vigil liturgy is the story of Moses, Marion, and the Israelites crossing the Red Sea. This reading has been in every Easter Vigil since at least the 4th century. And on this most holy of nights, we hear about how our loving God saves us. This story is rich for our time right now. In it, the Israelites were confused and scared. They didn't want to follow Moses and questioned him on why he was leading them away from the Egyptians. Was Moses leading them to their death? Wouldn't it have been easier just to stay in slavery with the Egyptians? Confusion, anger, and afraid were the Israelites. But they couldn't see the big picture, and neither could Moses. But God was guiding them, keeping them safe, and God delivered them from their enemy, their oppressor. The sea was parted and the Israelites made it to a new land. I am holding on to this story tight these days. You see, just like the Israelites, I hear the confusion, anger, and the fear in our own isolated lives. Not knowing how long we will have to live like this, not really knowing where to place the blame, frustration and confusion over who is guiding us at this time, fear of becoming sick, fear of death, fear of fear. And it is precisely this story, and frankly, all the stories we hear on this evening, that remind us that while our current crisis is unique to us, our God's salvation is and has always been the story. The story of God's love for us, which pushes away death and destruction and fear and uncertainty. The story of God's saving grace, which assures us that in our deepest, darkest nights, the light of Christ shines forth. The story of God, which gives shape to our very being and guides us even when we cannot see where we are going. This is the story, and this is the night when death loses its sting and we are once again reminded that God's salvation story is ancient and yet so very alive and present with us. May the light of Christ, which bursts into our darkness, shine in our hearts and light the way to our salvation this night and forevermore. Amen.